Hi, my name is Steve Foster and welcome to this edition of Legends of the Highway. Today we're going to be reviewing the Ferrari P3 that was created for the blockbuster movie that came out a couple years ago called Ford v Ferrari. This car is a very accurate visual interpretation of the Ferrari that battled Ford in 1966 at Le Mans. They made 4 of these cars for the movie, and this is one of the ones that was used throughout the filming of the movie with a variety of numbers. So I'm going to give you a brief tour of the car and explain some of the features of it. So the body is a representation of the P3. It actually has a P4 series wheel on it, which is the magnesium 5-spoke with genuine knockoffs. Another example of the attention to detail that was paid by the movie crew was a stenciled Firestone on the Avon race tires so that it would look accurate. So a detail like that normally would not be something a movie production company would consider, but they really did strive for accuracy in Ford versus Ferrari. This car is a right-hand drive vehicle, and the doors open as the original. There were only a handful of originals created. One of them currently resides in the Ferrari Museum in Maranello. Another one is with a private collector in Florida, and a couple of them were lost to damage, so they're an exceedingly rare Ferrari competition car. The current values would probably, if one came for sale, which they never do, minimum of $50 million. It has the sliding plexi windows, which is what they would have done back in period. And this is it. This is all you've got. So when it gets hot, you can open that window and hopefully it reduces the condensation in the car. It's got a modern set of seat belts, as we do hope to take it out onto the track. We're going to do a Ford versus Ferrari movie car reunion hopefully in the future, and so we're trying to make this thing as safe as possible. This car has a similar seat to the original car. In the original car, these would have been where the fuel tanks resided, one on each side, thus the flip gas caps up there. In this car, for safety reasons for filming, the gas cap is behind the driver with a fuel cell. Original style seats. The upholstery is actually some of the last surviving upholstery that was used by Ferrari on the real cars, and I obtained that through a good friend of mine that does Ferrari restorations. The steering wheel on this car is a original 66, 67 Momo Monza wheel. It's an accurate representation. It is an actual representation of the steering wheel that was used in period. The dash layout is very similar. A lot of the switchgear is original switchgear from Italy, as are the gauges. A couple of the things that are nice little details are this Lucas switch is a flash to pass. So when you're on the Mulsanne straight at 200 miles an hour and you needed to pass a slower car, you would just hit this flasher and of course it would light up the array of lights on the front. So now we're going to go ahead and fire the car up. Also, some of the other interesting things in this car. So it's got it came with a period bell helmet, and then one of the Firestone jackets that was used by the Italians in the pit. And of course, it looks like they were smaller guys than the people we have now. And this is one of the original jackets. And then there's a company that's doing the Dunlop driving suit that would have been worn by Lorenzo Bandini, which is the number that this car depicts. So this is the cotton Dunlop driving suit that are being reproduced, and this is all that the driver had back then for protection. Not fireproof in any way, shape, or form. A set of the period goggles and the old Italian driving gloves. Some of the other details on this car, they're showing attention to detail. These are the original cast aluminum taillight bezels, original reflectors, original taillight lenses that were used on the actual car in period. Of course, the Prova MO36 is what the Ferrari factory used when they tested their vehicles. So Prova meant test. MO stands for Modena, of course, this is where the cars were, and then the 36 was just an ID number for that test vehicle. So I was able to obtain a Prova 1 custom license plate in Arizona, which I thought kind of made it cool. The car, depending on the gearing, is capable of over 200 miles an hour. I don't know that I would do that in this car at this point, but it certainly could do it based on the gear ratio and power. Powertrain on this car, obviously they didn't source a 4-liter Ferrari V12, so what they used was a crate General Motors LS3 with a hotter camshaft, a custom intake and exhaust. The horsepower is probably in the 550, 575 range. It's adapted to a modern Porsche transaxle, so it's a mid-engine vehicle. has a rear-mounted transmission, transaxle. The car all in weighs about 1,500 pounds and change. So the power to weight ratio on this car is actually superior to the original. The weight is similar, yet this car probably has another 50 to 60 horsepower. Exceedingly easy, modern drivability, but the appearance is that of the vintage car. The chassis on this car is a bespoke chassis created by a firm in Detroit, and it's aluminum monocoque chassis. It's got forged aluminum upper and lower control arms, coilover suspension, large brakes. So it's a modern interpretation with a similar layout. The original car was tube framed, of course. This one's the same proportions and has a very convincing visual representation. Thanks for watching Legends of the Highway. I'd like to invite you to watch our upcoming episodes where we'll be reviewing vintage muscle cars, rare movie cars, Porsche hot rods, race cars, and all manner of interesting and exciting vehicles. Thanks.